Hello, this is the fifth gloss for chapter of the gloss for the Pergola Pump book Lance. Uh, and the last one, I'll get back to telling the story itself tomorrow. But I mentioned in the last gloss, the fourth one, that I had to go back because there was a problem with the character of Teydis. I want to explain that. I don't make a disclaimer that saying that none of the characters are based on real people. That would be false. Almost all of my characters are based on, they're fictional, but they're based on real people. And those people know it. Since I treat all my characters pretty kindly, there shouldn't be an issue with that. But there are some exceptions. Teydis is not based on any real person. I got the idea of a nosy neighbor kind of a character from a real person that lives in the place that in the novel is called Overtree. But he wasn't mean in any way. He was just curious. That's where I got the idea. And then the character I built on a little bit more. But the character isn't actually based on a person at all. It's based on an idea, or rather an attitude or a situation. Now, you surely don't understand what I mean unless you have figured out where I got that name. Essex Teydis Teydis Crow. When you figure out where I got that name, this will make sense. But I'm telling you this now because there is a public figure that I could imagine him thinking that I've based this character on him. I have not. It is not based on any real person. There are going to be some similarities, and I can see why he might think that. But he tends to think everything's about him anyway. So I wanted to make that statement. It is not based on a real person, that character. All right, that was one thing. A couple other things I wanted to say. Themes. There are themes that you can see them developing in the story. Now, a theme is a particular subject that keeps showing up. In music, a theme is a tune often associated with a character that keeps showing up. In literature, it's more likely an idea or a subject that keeps showing up. They're there. I could tell you what they are. They're pretty much intentional, but I think it would be better if you just figured it out. But it's something you could look for if you wanted to. The one other thing I wanted to say is the development of this, how fast the story develops and how fast I present it. I've got to learn about that. Now, I had criticism from Wayne Frost, and it was negative criticism, but I welcome that. He told me that 2 of my episodes or chapters were boring. And if I had a third one that was boring, that would be the death knell. It may happen. I'm just telling the story. But if every single chapter were exciting in a certain way, I think you could draw the development like a pulse. It would go like that. There is a development that goes like this as well. Like in a Shakespearean play, there's exposition, rising action, climax is usually in the 4th act, and denouement is in the 5th act. Well, that's of course in a longer work. And speaking of the length of the work, Edgar Allan Poe wrote an essay on short stories. He basically invented the genre of the short story. And one of the definitions he gave to a short story is it's meant to be read in one sitting. Well, the Pergola Pump, in the first place, is not meant to be read anyway, and it's not meant to be heard in one sitting. It's way too long for that. It's much more like a novel. Poe, I told you about that. One other thing on that idea of development and boring parts. This is the oral tradition. I'm telling the story, I'm not writing it. And the most famous work in the oral tradition probably is Homer's Iliad. Now that Homer couldn't read or write. He sang that, and then eventually somebody wrote it down. But in the Iliad, there's a section that I don't know if it's famous or not, but it got my attention. It's called the Catalogue of Ships, where Homer actually lists in his poem something like 100 ships, all the ships that headed over to Troy to fight the Trojan War. Now, I'm not going to be doing something like that, but it's an indicator of how the oral tradition is not the same as reading either a short story or reading a book or even seeing episodes of a soap opera. They have to have that pulse complete with a hook. But they don't. I don't know if I've never watched them, but I don't know if they have that long rising climax and then denouement, because there's to go on forever. I don't know. I just wanted to mention those things. Next time I'm going back to the story. I miss telling it. I miss my characters. Bye for now.